welcome back to another video, and in this one I'm going to be doing activity 1.3.4. This activity actually has two parts. In the first part we're going to be making, let's see here, basically this item, and in the second part we're going to look at making this one. So I'll probably end up breaking this video up into two parts in order to get this done. So the first part that truthfully is the one that gives people the most trouble because we're using a bunch of different tools is this. But if we follow along with the instructions, it actually is quite easy. So let's start by creating a sketch on the front plane. I'm going to use the center point rectangle centered at the origin. Folks, for this one, make sure that you are using the center point rectangle on the origin. Now, the horizontal side is going to be 6 inches, and the vertical side is going to be 4 inches. And again, I need to make sure that I change my workspace units. I always forget to do this. I'm going to change it to inches, and then we're going to go back. So 6 by 4. What I'm going to do now, and it doesn't explicitly state this, but what I'm going to do now is I'm going to make a construction line from corner to corner. So to make a construction line, I had to hit construction, which is hotkey to Q, and line, which is hotkey to L. So if I hit QL on my keyboard, then I see that both these are highlighted, and I make a construction line. Now, a construction line is nice because I can use it to set geometry that I want, but when I go to use, say, extrude or revolve, it doesn't pop up into my 3D model. It just helps me sort of align the elements of my sketch that I want. After I make my construction lines, I'm going to add my 3 polygons. I have a pentagon here, a hexagon here, and a equilateral triangle over here. So let's start with this. Now, please note in their instructions for this, they tell you to make a circumscribed pentagon. Well, circumscribed polygons, I can get those from up here. Circumscribed polygons have a circle on the outside of the polygon that is tangential to each vertex of the polygon, whereas inscribed polygons have a circle on the inside that is tangential to each side of the polygon. So they just kind of mess up the wording here. They say make a circumscribed pentagon. This is actually an inscribed pentagon, and that's what I'm going to make now. So to make that, I'm going to deselect these tools. I'm going to hit my drop down. I'm going to select inscribed polygon. Inscribed polygon. I'm going to place it roughly up here, and for the purposes of this activity, it's good if I don't make it right on this line as they show here. It's actually better if I make it slightly off of this line because we're going to have to move it later. So make sure that I'm not setting any constraints that I don't want. I will click to confirm my polygon, and then I see this 6 pops up. That I can set the number of sides with. Without touching anything else, I'm going to type the number 5, and I will make a pentagon, a 5-sided polygon. When I hit enter, I can now see that this 0.793 pops up in a white box, and that allows me to set the diameter of the inside circle. Now, if I go back here, it tells me, hey, a radius of 0.35 inch. Well, hey, I know this. A radius is half of my diameter. So I'm not going to type in 0.35. I'm going to type in 0.7, and then I'll hit enter. Similarly, I will make they say an inscribed hexagon, but I know that this is circumscribed. I can tell because the circle's on the outside. I will make a circumscribed polygon in the same fashion. I will click on circumscribed polygon. I'll make it somewhere up here that's not coincident to my construction line, because I will need to move it later. I'll drag it out a little bit, and I see that it defaults to 6. I will hit enter. I now see that my diameter pops up. Let's read. It says a radius of 0.25 inches. Well, I'm not setting a radius here. I'm not setting a radius, I'm setting a diameter. So I'm going to type in 0.5. 0.5. Lastly, I need to make an equilateral triangle down in this quadrant here. The equilateral triangle. So I'll click, I'll drag, I'll click again. I'll set this to 3. And it tells me a side length of 1.25 inches. 1.25 inches. So instead of typing in 1.25 in this box, I'm actually going to pull up my dimension tool by clicking D on my keyboard and clicking on a side, dragging, clicking again, and making this 1.25. 1.25. Now, the fun part is using the following geometrical and dimensional constraints to constrain my polygon. So let's just work through this A through G stepwise. It tells me the center of the pentagon is on a vertical line through the center of the rectangle. So what do? Well, I grab my vertical constraint. That's hotkey to the letter V, or it's in this drop-down menu. I click on the center of my pentagon, and the center, right, if this is going through the center of my rectangle, I'll click here, and I'll see that this moves. And now this will remain vertical. So I cannot move my polygon side to side. It has to be vertical to the center. Next, it says one side of the pentagon is horizontal and located 0.5 inches above the center point of the rectangle. I will hit my drop down. I will grab horizontal, which will make one or more lines or a set of lines to be horizontal. I will click on the bottom line of my pentagon. Next, I will set the dimension between the bottom line and the center to be 1/2 inch. Now you can see over here, when I did that, my hexagon is moving. Well, we'll deal with that in a little bit, but that shows that I must have some type of constraint on this hexagon and this pentagon that it may have inadvertently popped up. But I'll deal with that as I get there. Moving on to letter C. One side of the hexagon is parallel with the 6-inch side of the rectangle. Well, parallel constraint. I will make one side of my hexagon parallel to the 6. Does that say 6? Yep. Okay. To the 6-inch side. So it should look like that. Should look like that, right? That's what I've got. 6-inch side, okay? So parallel between one side of my hexagon, truthfully doesn't even matter which one you choose, and the 6-inch side of my rectangle. Let's see what happens next. D, the center of the hexagon is coincident with a diagonal. So I grab my coincident constraint, I click on the center of my hexagon, and then I click on the diagonal. And you can see that that placed my hexagon on the diagonal. Next, the center of the hexagon is 1/2 inch below the top side of the rectangle. I grab my dimension tool, click on the center of my hexagon, the top line here, and I'm going to set this dimension to be 0.5. Now, when this happens, what do we got here? Everything just turned red. So what that means is that I am giving Onshape 2 different instructions that are interfering. To diagnose this issue, I must hover over these constraints and see what is highlighting. Now, because I am a master at Onshape, I see this horizontal constraint is not a constraint that I need. And it's likely the one that is causing this error. And if I hover over it, sure enough, I see a horizontal constraint with the inscribed circle and one side of my hexagon. If I click on that and delete it, I see that it behaves, the sketch behaves the way I need it to do. That is an important thing that we need to learn how to do, is diagnosing when an error pops up, what is causing our error. I saw that it was that horizontal constraint. I did not need that. I deleted it, and my shape works as expected. Okay. Next, One vertex of the equilateral triangle is coincident with the corner of the rectangle. A vertex is a corner. It's a corner. So I need to make one of these corners coincident with the corner of the rectangle. Well, my coincident constraint is here. It's hotkey to the letter I. I will click on the vertex of the triangle and the corner. And it looks like this. Next, the center point of the equilateral triangle is coincident with the diagonal of the rectangle. That means at this point here, this center point, I will click on this center point. With my coincident being applied, I'll click on the center point and this diagonal, and I see that it pops into place. Now, I know that this sketch is fully constrained. How do I know that? Well, every single sketch element has turned from a shade of blue to black. When your sketch elements are all black, that is when you know that your sketch is fully constrained. And mine looks like theirs, okay? So, reflection question, is it fully constrained? Yes. How can I tell? Well, all of my sketch elements are black, and if I try to click and drag, it will not let me click and drag. I cannot move anything. Everything has to stay in place. I know that this is fully constrained. Now we're going to look at using our patterning tool. We're going to make a couple of patterns. We're going to make a circular pattern, a rectangular pattern, and a linear pattern here, okay? To do this, it doesn't matter where we start, and we're not given exact dimensions, it looks like, right? Not really given exact dimensions. So we're going to have to guesstimate. I will start by using the circular pattern on the pentagon. To get my circular pattern, I look for this icon here, these 4 squares that are arranged in this 2x2 pattern. And if I hit the drop down, I get my circular pattern. Now, when you folks are doing this, you will select one line at a time. Okay? This is what it's patterning right now. This 3x will pop up. I don't need 3. How many do I need? I need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I need to change this 3 to a 5. If you double click on that 3 and change it to 5 and hit enter, you get these. Okay? You get these. Now, what we can do here is click again, and that sets our pattern. And we could change this degree if we want, but I'm just going to delete it. I'll just get rid of that, and I will actually just get rid of this. I don't need that. Okay, this is just fine for me. This is just fine. Next, I will make this linear pattern or rectangular pattern of hexagons with one shape missing. Well, okay, let's see. I'll select my linear pattern, and I will select my sketch elements, which are all 6 sides of this hexagon. And here, I will change this 1 to a 2, and I can see that this is not going in the direction that I need it to go. So I can change the directionality by using these arrows. I'll send this way, and I'll send this down, and I'll kind of look at my reference drawing because we're not really given any dimensions here, so I sort of have to look at this and make an assessment. It looks like this goes just below my diagonal, so I'll pull that just below, and I think this should be good. And when I click again, and maybe even make these a little closer together, and when I click again, it confirms it. Now, I need to delete one of these shapes. So I'm going to highlight all of these sides of my hexagon and hit backspace, and that deletes it. Next, I'm going to make a linear pattern of my triangles. Okay, so I'll select the linear pattern tool again. I will click on the 3 sides of my triangle. I will make this, I need 7 of them, so I'll change that 3 to a 7. And moving this one around is a little bit tricky. I actually have to click on this little box on the arrow and click and drag this around into place. And it looks something like this. When I do that, and I click again to confirm it. Looks something kind of like that, right? Kind of like that. Well, let's retry that one. I can make that one a little bit better. I'll make that one a little bit better. Change this 3 to a 7. And move these. I guess it looks more. I have to give room for the next step. Maybe like this. I think that looks fine. So here's my sketch. Here's what I got. And I'm cool. Now it says finish the sketch, estimate the extrude distance, and we're going to extrude it so it kind of looks like this. All right. So I'll hit check. So this is what I have, and I'll hit extrude, and I want to extrude sketch 1. So I'll click on sketch 1, and when I do that, I get this. Now, the only thing that I'm going to have to make selections on, I need to work out this pattern here, okay? So I see that there's like 3, it's like almost like a chevron looking pattern here. So I have to make the appropriate selections to do that, so please just follow along. I'm going to zoom in to this area down here. And I'll click the areas that I want to include for this extrude. And as you do this, we're going to notice that my sketch goes, it'll error out. And then as I make more selections, it'll be okay. So I have to do it kind of like this, okay? And then, oh, you know what? I'm realizing I did something wrong here. No, keep, rid of all of this. Sorry, technical error. So I want it to look like this. There we go. This will allow me to get those 3 arrows, because then I'm going to leave that one blank. Okay, so those are what your selection should look like to make that. And I'll hit check to confirm it, and I'm left with this. Okay, so actually only one part left is these pentagonal extrusions. And how that's going to work is I am going to start a new sketch on here. And for this one, I'm going to use the offset tool, which is here. It's hotkey to the letter O. When I hit offset, what that does is it allows me to project existing geometry onto my new sketch. And offset is exactly what it sounds like. It's not going to line up 1-to-1. So watch as this works, right? If I look here per the drawing instructions, right, I'm offsetting these 3 pentagons. So I do them one at a time. Okay, so the first pentagon, I'll offset by clicking on all the sides. Now the offset distance that they want me to apply is 0.1. Okay, so when I have that done, watch what happens if I click on this polygon. Right? It says, oh, can only offset a single chain at once. So I have to wait. Once I have this, I can click to confirm it. I can hit enter. I'm cool. I'm going to hit select offset again. Same thing. Now notice here what's happening. I have to send that the other way. I don't know why it defaulted inward. I want to go outward. And I'll change this to, again, 0.1. And then I'll click to confirm. Click to confirm. And I will offset one more time, coming out this way. Whoops. See what happens when I confirm too quickly? Uh-oh, now I went too far back. Okay, let's fix that. Oh boy, I'm fat fingering now. Offset, 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 offset. Click the arrow, send it the other way. Make this 0.1. Okay, we're cool. Click to confirm, we're good. We're good. Offset. Boom, 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 boom. Make this 0.1. Okay, so should be good. Should be good. Click to confirm. Now, it tells me to apply a sketch fillet. I have to apply a sketch fillet. It says 0.2 inch. and I'm going to use this tool here, Sketch Fillet. We've used fillet before on a already extruded part, and here we're going to use it on a sketch. So I select fillet, and I'm just going to select the corners that I want, and it told me 0.2, so I'll make sure this says 0.2, and I'll hit enter, select the corners that I want, 0.2, hit enter, select the corners that I want, 0.2, hit enter, and we're good. And these do not interfere with each other, so we're good to go for the next part of the assignment. Okay, so after I use the offset and I make the sketch fillets, it says finish the sketch and extrude the area. So I'll finish it, and then I will now hit extrude, and what I want to extrude are these 3 areas here. And I think it doesn't tell me how far they come out, but if I look here, I don't know, maybe half an inch. That looks a little bit better. And that's this part. Okay, so pretty abstract part, but you know, it gives you practice using the pattern tool, using the polygon tool, the sketch fillet, using construction lines, you know, setting some constraints. It's just good practice. Okay, so once you get this far, you are done with that part. Next, you are going to insert a new tab and create a new part studio, and that will be available in the second half of this video on my YouTube channel. So go ahead and see part 2 for activity 1.3.4 to get, oh, there's the bell, to get this part done. All right, guys, I will see you soon. Thanks, and bye.